Hello and welcome to the Teen Christian View podcast. I'm your host, Noah Nichols, and alongside me, as always, is my co-host, Kessler Burlingame. How are you doing today, Kessler?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good as well. We are happy to be back. Sorry about the wait. Both of Kessler and myself both got sick pretty close to each other, like literally a day apart or something like that. But before we get continued, I think I have the prayer this time,
I'm pretty
Kessler,
sure,
right?
yeah.
Okay. All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing Kessler and I to come together and spread your word and share it with other teenagers. We ask that you give us wisdom so that we may give your wisdom to others. Ask that you bless us. We ask that you bless us with knowledge so that we can bless others with it. And we ask that you use this podcast for good in other people's lives. And in your name we pray. Amen. We wanted to let you guys know that we've reached over 3,700 people as well as over 41,000 total plays. Thank you guys so much for helping us reach those numbers. Please be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at TCV_podcast. We're really trying to grow our Instagram. We're posting more often. We're making more interactive posts and things like that. Please go
Amen.
drop a follow down below if you can. You can do that while listening to the podcast. It's not that hard. Thanks to hey, mute yourself while I'm not talking because otherwise it's really hard to edit everything because I'm still getting what you're saying. Thank you. um, Thank you to everybody who has followed us, asked us anything, dropped a rating or anything like that. It really helps us out. We ask that you guys submit to us your thoughts, ideas, questions, etc. We really want to hear from you. We know that some of you also host your own podcast. If you guys want to set up a crossover, whatever you want to call that, just send us a DM on Instagram and we can set that up. We're always looking for new people to do a crossover with. We have at least one in the works right now, hopefully a couple more in the future. Alrighty. So the main topic for this week is dealing with bad influences. And before we get to that, we also want to let you guys know that we also are posting episodes that you guys won't get on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's called The Full View. There's a link for that below in the description. Go check that out. It's $3 to join. And that may seem like a lot of money. It doesn't take that long to get it, and it really helps us out. We're trying to promote things on Instagram, and if you guys are able to subscribe to that platform, and you'll also get bonus content like episodes that you won't get here about like you'll get unedited episodes and stuff like that where I won't cut out, I won't do any editing or all the fun stuff that happens in the background. But the money from that is going to go directly back into the podcast so we can grow. We ask that you guys do that. We really appreciate for the people that have been doing that. Anyways, Kessler, you are going to tell us more about what we're diving into today.
So we're talking about bad influences today. And as teenagers, we generally can be influenced pretty easily. And the problem comes when we run into people or things that are bad influence. So today we're going to talk about how to identify a bad influence, how to surround yourself with good influence and why that's important, and how we are impacted by outside influences. And as always, we will end with some Bible verses. So, Noah, how do we identify a bad influence?
So I think how I would do it, how I've done it, or whatever. First, you have to ask yourself, like, what is a bad influence? For the most part, it's pretty obvious. We have a little definition right here. Influence means the capacity to have an effect on the character, development, or behavior of someone or something, or the effect itself. And so in this instance, we're talking about something. It doesn't have to be a person. It can be a person having an effect on you. Um, for me, and what I've recognized a lot of times is requires self-reflection. Notice any changes in yourself, any changes in your behavior, in your thinking, and then try and figure out where that's coming from. I think the biggest example that comes to my mind is oftentimes if I listen to music that's not Christian music, that has a lot of cursing or um, immoral words in it, if that makes any sense. Like the sentences are always talking about drugs and money and things like that, then I'm going to think that way. It's harder to not curse when the songs you're listening to are full of cursing. I've noticed that in my life a lot. So I've noticed that that's a bad influence, and that is self reflection. Recognize the influences around you. Are your friends telling you to, come skip school? We'll go hang out. We're gonna go do this or whatever. It sounds fun. Are your friends vaping in the bathroom and being like, dude, you should try this, whatever? Um, if they are, recognize that that's a bad influence. They're not. I mean, vaping is not healthy. No matter what you hear, it's actually worse for you than cigarettes. And obviously, you shouldn't be skipping school and whatever any other things are trying to influence you in a bad way. That could be a TV show. It could be a video game, whatever. Um, Kessler, do you have anything you wanted to add on that? Like what you do? How do you identify a bad influence?
Um, for me, just like identifying a bad influence, like really what you said. If you find yourselves doing um, unholy things because of it, like you said, listening to songs with cursing and you're cursing because of it. If you realize you're doing those things, just try and eliminate it from your life. I guess that's what I do, and that's what everyone should really do, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think kind of slightly leading into that. We're not saying how to remove those influences from your life, but how would you surround yourself with good influences, Kessler?
Just I would say first off, find a good group of friends like Noah. For us, I guess I would say the youth group. That's a We got a pretty good group of people there, and I most of them are good influences. Turn off the bad music. Uh, I Whenever I think of bad influences, most of the time I think of rap, and not all of it is bad. Not all of it um, is a bad influence, but a lot of it nowadays just talks about a load of stuff we don't really need to be hearing about. Talk shows, I don't even want to get into talk shows. I don't like them, and they're bad influences. That's really why I don't like them. Certain video games can be bad influences. YouTube videos, those can be. And whenever you notice them, just try and shut it off. Uh, Social media, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, all that stuff, you can just replace it or just get rid of it in general, because those places can definitely be bad influences. Instead of listening to songs uh, filled with junk and all the stuff Noah was talking about just a second ago, um, in the mornings on your way to school or just in the car wherever you're going, maybe just hanging out at home, you're listening to something. Um, Maybe listen to something else like a Christian podcast. Hashtag ad. Hashtag call partner. Uh, or better yet, you can listen to an audio version of the Bible. I used to do that. Back when I did a lot of morning devotions, I used to, if it had a part where it was reading a lot of the Bible, I'd just listen to it on my way to school in the morning, or just read the Bible. That's also a great one too. Noah, how do you surround yourself with good influences? Do you have anything to add?
Not really. I think you mostly covered it. Um, Hold on a second. Okay, I'm trying to make sure that it's recording. It is recording. No, I think you mostly covered everything. I think you did a good job covering all of it. I would just agree with what you said. Replace those influences that are bad with good ones. I think you covered it really well. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
But that kind of leads into our what is this? Our final question? Yeah, it's final.
No, not yet. But yeah,
Um,
this question is for you. Why is it important to have good influences, Noah?
um, I think it's kind of obvious because your influences, your surroundings, influence you. Funnily enough, it's kind of crazy, but actually, your surroundings do have an impact on yourself. If you have good influences, it's easier to act smarter, work harder, and be a stronger Christian. If they are bad influences, the opposite happens. Um, I don't want to speak for you, Kessler, but I would definitely say from what you've told me, it's probably a lot easier to not do things that are wrong, to not engage in wrong behavior when you're not at public school versus when you're at, say, youth group or
That
at church.
that would be fairly accurate. Public school is, or at least the school I get. Well, I know it's definitely the same for most schools. There are a lot of bad influences in public school, and you just got to find a good group of people and get away from everything else.
Hmm. Um, but I mean, it's pretty simple. If you, we're gonna get into this later with the Bible verses, but the people you have around you, the environment you have around you, is going to impact you a lot more than you think. And if you have a bad environment, if you have bad people around you, you're not going to turn out much better. And I'm not calling all your friends bad or whatever, but if they're having a bad influence on you, then maybe you need to change your environment. You need to change your friendship with them. Um, Kessler, that kind of a little bit leads into my question for you. Also, real quick, did you want to add anything on this? How would you? Why is it like? Is there anything you wanted to add on why it's important to
No,
have good influences?
yeah, I think you got that one pretty well.
All right. But our final question is: how are we impacted by, um, not? I'm sorry. Our final question is: how do we, I guess, deal with influences that we can't change necessarily? Like, for example, your family. You can't just move away from your family, or whatever, things like that.
Yeah, so when there's influences on you that you can't really change, just pray and ask God to help you, and see ask Him to change your situation. Like what you said with family. If you're in a home where you have a parent or someone that's maybe not the best influence, just pray that God helps change the situation. But praying to Him doesn't. I mean, it doesn't always mean He will, but you can definitely ask Him. Ask for patience and understanding from Him, to help you. But in the end, you just need to trust God. You should also pray about other influences, not just once. You can't remove or change. What? Also, if you have friends that are bad influence, don't try and change them against their will. You can share the gospel with them and be a true friend to them and tell them what they're doing is wrong, but don't try and force them to change. If someone doesn't want to change from their sinful ways, you can try your best, but you can't just shove a Bible down their throat and expect them to be a different person. It'll just damage your relationship with them in the end. So just pray for that person, and when you're in a situation you can't change, pray. That's really what I have to say about that. What about you, Noah?
I think you covered it pretty well, and I agree, especially with the last part. I think sometimes we can try to be a little too evangelistic, if that's a word, and try and really change that other person, but that's really going to harm a relationship with them.
Yeah.
Like if Kessler, if you weren't a Christian, I came up to you and I was hounding you all the time about your behavior, and I was like you just said, shoving a Bible down your throat, would how would you react to me?
Probably throat chop you.
Well, that's good to know. I won't do that. In realistic situations where you don't get attacked
Oh,
by the
okay,
person
okay,
that,
okay. Hold on, I got it. All right. Realistically, if you were hounding me about being a Christian stuff, I would just try and just stop talking to you. I would just try and avoid you. Probably think you're weird.
yeah,
Realistically.
and and that's not what you want to happen. You don't want to create divides between you and the other people around you like that. So don't be somebody who just shoves the Bible in people's faces when they don't want it. It's not our job. Our job is to just plant the seed. Just say, "Hey, man, I as your friend, I notice you've been doing something wrong, and I don't think that's a good thing for you." Or even if you're just like, "Hey, man, you want to come to a youth group, whatever." Our job is to plant the seed. God will water it. Unfortunately, we don't have that Bible verse here. I wish we did because I can't remember it off the top of my head. But speaking of Bible verses, I have the first one, which is 1 Corinthians 15:33. It's really short, really simple. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. I know you guys have heard this before, but if you, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier. If you have bad company, it doesn't matter how good your morals are, it's going to ruin them. It doesn't matter how good your, how strong your will is, how strong your faith is. If you, for the most part, if you have bad company around you, you're probably going to end up making bad decisions. I think Kessler, you have the next verse.
Yep, I have Proverbs 13:20. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. So this is also one that's kind of plain and simple. God is telling us in this verse, if we surround ourselves with wiser people, we will ourselves become wise and successful. But the same cannot be said if we surround ourselves with fools. We will, in the end, suffer harm and just not turn out great. So, Noah, you have the last verse.
All right. And I want to clarify real quick. I don't think I know Kessler doesn't mean that if you surround yourself. Well, actually, that might not be true. I was gonna say if you surround yourself with stupid people, it doesn't mean that physical harm will come to you, but that's not actually wrong. So never mind. Um,
It's a possibility, but
yeah,
maybe
I don't
maybe
mean
not
like
not like suffer physical harm. Just it's not good for you, is what I really meant.
yeah. But I mean, if you actually think about it, it is a possibility because if you have a bunch of friends who like drinking and driving, and
They might
that
tell
might
you to
not
jump
end
off a
so well
bridge.
for you. Yeah,
You know,
might not end so well for you. All right, I have the final verse, Psalm 1:1. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. This is not even saying blessed is the person who surrounds himself with wise counsel and good people. It's just saying blessed is the person who just distances themselves from the idiots and the people who are stupid and who like to sin and who have bad moral judgment. Um, and I think this verse is pretty cut and dry. If you surround yourself with people who aren't what this verse is talking about, life is probably going to get better for you. And I bet that your decision making will get better as well. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add about this verse, Kessler, or anything else you wanted to go over.
um, no, nothing really on the verse. Just remember in the end, just pray, cut out bad influences, replace them with something else. That's just a good, I would say, sum up of what we're trying to get to y'all.
Yep, well said.
Yeah. So we want to thank you guys for listening. We really do appreciate it. If you haven't yet, go give our other episodes a listen. If you have any questions, thoughts, or ideas, DM us at TCV_podcast on most social medias or message us in the TCV Discord. There's got a lot of people in it now, so you should join. It's pretty lit. We do like receiving your questions. It's a pleasure answering them. Share us with anyone you think could benefit from this podcast, friends, family, cousin. That's family, classmates. We're on most major podcast platforms, so we put out one episode a week. Usually, we're going to get better. We just had a rough past few weeks.
We got lazy, is what happened. Sorry.
Listen,
Hey, we got sick.
when you're sick, you're lazy. Okay, sorry. That's just how it be. But we will be back next week. Peace out.